Right now, above your head, there's a box you haven't opened in years. Old dishes, tangled beads, a dusty bowl somebody wrapped in newspaper before you were born. You already decided it's junk. I'm here to tell you some of it isn't. Ordinary attic pieces, the kind almost everyone owns, are quietly selling for hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. Most people never look close enough to know, so stay with me, because the single most valuable thing on this list, one real piece that sold for over $4,000, is the very last item I'll show you, and it might be sitting in your kitchen cabinet tonight. I need you to trust me for the next few minutes, so let me tell you where I'm coming from. I spent years working estate cleanouts and church rummage tables, standing in dead people's attics with a flashlight and a dust mask, sorting what stays from what goes. I still remember the first sale I ever worked, out past the county line, watching a woman hand over a shoebox of her mother's jewelry for $10 because she thought it was all fake. I found out later, one brooch in that box was worth more than her monthly rent. That moment changed how I looked at everything. And it's exactly why I'm telling you not to let anything leave your house until you've checked it against this list. Let's start with the thing almost everyone has a drawer of, and almost everyone gets wrong. Costume jewelry. The tangled, cloudy, clip-on stuff at the bottom of your mother's dresser. You've probably decided it's worthless because it isn't gold and it isn't real diamonds. Here's what I learned the hard way. In this world, fake can be worth a fortune. The name to look for is stamped on the back, and it's tiny, so you'll want your reading glasses. Trifari, Eisenberg, Coro, Miriam Haskell. Those are makers, not materials, and collectors chase them hard. A signed Eisenberg original brooch from the 1940s, the ones with those big, hand-set clear stones that throw light like real diamonds, regularly sells for $200 to $500. Not because of what it's made of, because of who made it and how few survived. But there's one material inside that jewelry drawer that beats all of them, and most people throw it away because it looks like cheap plastic. It's called Bakelite. It's an early plastic from the 1920s and 30s, and it feels heavier and warmer than modern plastic. Collectors test it by running it under hot water for a few seconds, then smelling it. Real Bakelite gives off a faint chemical, almost like a school supply smell. A carved Bakelite bangle in butterscotch or cherry red can bring $150 easy, and the rare carved and dyed ones have crossed $1,000. I watched a bin of them get labeled $1 a piece at a yard sale. I bought all 9. That's the difference knowing one detail makes. So that's the drawer, but the cabinet is where it gets serious. Therefore, let's climb higher. Next, walk over to the kitchen glass. The green stuff. That soft, jade-colored glassware your grandmother used every single day and never treated as special. That's the whole reason it's valuable now. It got used, chipped, and tossed. The survivors are worth money. The name is Fire King, made by Anchor Hocking, and the color everyone wants is called jadeite, that milky mint green. It was cheap kitchen glass in the 1940s and 50s. Restaurants used it, diners stacked it, nobody babied it. Here's how you tell the money pieces. Flip a mug or a bowl over and look for the Fire King mark pressed right into the glass. Then look at the shape. The plain, thick restaurant mugs are common, but the ribbed jadeite bowls, the ones that nest inside each other in graduated sizes, are the ones buyers hunt. A complete set of those nesting bowls in good jadeite can bring $200 to $400. And there's a related green you should know called uranium glass, sometimes labeled Vaseline glass, which actually glows bright green under a black light because of the tiny bit of uranium in it. It's harmless to hold, but that glow turns a $2 dish into a $50 to $100 piece, and almost nobody thinks to check. If you have a black light in a junk drawer somewhere, that's your first homework tonight. That green glass surprises people, but the next color surprises them more. Therefore, stay with me. Now I want to talk about the dishes that might actually be radioactive. I promise that's not a scare line, it's a selling point. Fiesta ware. The bright, cheerful, solid-colored dinnerware with the ring pattern near the rim, made by the Homer Laughlin Company starting in 1936. You've seen it. Turquoise, yellow, ivory, cobalt blue. Those are lovely and worth a bit. But there is one color that collectors lose their minds over, and it's the original red. They called it Fiesta Red. And to get that deep orange-red glaze, the factory used uranium oxide. The real thing, especially the pieces made before the government took the uranium away during the war years, will make a Geiger counter tick and will glow under that same black light. That original red isn't dangerous sitting on a shelf, but it is rare, because production stopped for years. A single Fiesta Red mixing bowl in the larger sizes, or one of the covered casserole dishes or the water pitchers, can sell for $150 to over $300, and the rarest forms climb past that. The trick is checking the color and the shape against the age. Turn it over, look for the Fiesta mark, feel the weight, and if that red glows, you're holding something a lot of people would love to buy. I once sorted a whole box of it at a cleanout that the family had marked for the thrift store. That box paid me back tenfold. So we've done the jewelry and the glass and the dishes. But now let's go heavier. Literally. Because the next thing weighs a ton and hides in the back of the cabinet. Cast iron cookware. That black, crusty, heavy skillet you assume is just an old pan. If it's the right maker, it's a small fortune sitting on your stove. The two names that matter most are Griswold and Wagner. Both American, both made their best pieces from the late 1800s through the mid-1900s. Flip the skillet over. Griswold pieces have a maker's mark in the center, and the most collectible ones have a large cross-shaped logo with the word Griswold in a circle. Made in Erie, Pennsylvania. The old collectors call it the large block logo or the spider logo, and those markings help date the pan. Here's what most people never realize. A common modern cast iron pan is worth its weight in nothing, but an early Griswold in a hard-to-find size, or one of their oddities, can bring real money. The everyday Griswold skillets sell for $40 to $100 all day long, but the rare ones, like the Griswold spider skillet with the raised spider web design in the bottom, have sold for over $1,000, and the truly rare examples have crossed several thousand at auction. People scrub these things, hate the rust, and give them away because they think old means ruined. Old means valuable if the mark is right. Flip your pans over this week. Look for those names. That pan lives in the kitchen. But now we head up into the attic proper, where the boxes are, because the next piece is one people literally leave to rot. Old cameras. The clunky, heavy film cameras in the leather cases stacked in the corner. You assume they're worthless because nobody shoots film anymore, and you're wrong in a very specific and expensive way. Most old cameras are only worth a few dollars. I'll be honest with you. But certain German-made rangefinder cameras are among the most valuable everyday objects a person can inherit. The name to find is Leica, spelled L-E-I-C-A. Look on the top plate and the lens. A Leica from the 1930s through the 50s, even a well-used one, routinely sells for several hundred to a few $1,000s, and the rare early models and special editions have sold for tens of thousands and beyond at serious auctions. There's another name worth checking too called Rolleiflex, a boxy camera you look down into from the top. Those bring good money as well. And here's the part that stings. People find these cameras, see that the leather is cracked and the light meter is dead, and assume broken means worthless. With Leica, a non-working body can still carry serious value because collectors want the mechanism and the glass. So before that camera bag goes in the donation pile, read the front of every lens and the top of every body. One word, Leica, can change your whole month. Now, I need to stop and talk directly to one specific person watching. If you've been thinking this whole time, that's nice for other people, but my family never had anything fancy. My box really is just junk. This next part is for you. I want you to go get one specific thing tonight, and it costs you nothing but a few minutes. I want you to find the Christmas box. Everyone has one. That crushed cardboard carton of old ornaments wrapped in tissue and tangled in ancient tinsel. The ones you keep meaning to throw out because half of them are faded. Bring it down, because vintage Christmas ornaments are one of the most overlooked treasures in the entire house, and you can check them with nothing but your own 2 hands and a lamp. Here's what you're feeling for. First, the old glass ornaments, the thin, delicate ones that weigh almost nothing and have a distinct look. The American brand is called Shiny Brite, and the name is often printed right on the metal cap at the top. Turn the cap and read it. Shiny Brite ornaments from the 1940s and 50s, especially the ones in their original printed boxes, sell in sets for $40 to over $150, and the rarer shapes go higher. But the real prize is older and comes from Germany. Hand-blown German figural ornaments, shaped like birds, fruit, houses, faces, made from the late 1800s into the early 1900s, are wildly collectible. A single rare German figural ornament, a detailed clip-on bird with spun glass tail or a hand-painted figure, can bring $100 to several $100s on its own. So here is your check tonight with your hands. Pick up each old ornament. Is it thin, light, delicate glass rather than modern plastic? Does the cap say Shiny Brite? Is it a detailed shape, an animal or a person or a fruit, rather than a plain ball? Does it look genuinely old and hand-painted? If you're nodding, do not throw that box away. Wrap those pieces back up carefully. You may be holding a couple $100s in tissue paper you were about to set on the curb. That's the whole point of this. The value was always in your house. Nobody ever told you to look. And that feeling is exactly what pushed me to put everything I've learned into a single resource, which brings me to something I want to mention before we keep going. Everything I've covered so far, and everything still to come on this list, comes from years of hands-on experience that I've now organized into a book called Hidden Value. It's called Hidden Value because that's exactly what this is worth, that was always there, just waiting to be seen. If you want the full breakdown, the maker names, the pattern guides, the specific details that separate a $2 piece from a $2,000 piece, all in one place, you can bring right to the attic with you. The link is in the description. Think of it as the checklist that goes with everything you're hearing right now. Now, let's get back to where we were, because the pieces from here up are the ones that pay for a vacation. Marbles, I know how that sounds, but hear me out, because this one costs people the most in regret. That old sack or jar of marbles, the ones you assume came from a bag at the dime store, can contain individual pieces worth hundreds of dollars. The valuable ones are the old handmade German marbles from the 1800s and very early 1900s. They have a specific tell. Look for a small rough spot on the surface called a pontil mark, where the marble was cut from the glass rod by hand. Machine-made marbles are perfectly smooth all over. Handmade ones have that little scar. The kinds that bring money have names collectors whisper. Sulfides, which are clear marbles with a small white figure, like an animal, frozen inside the center. Swirls, with ribbons of color twisting through them. Lutz marbles, which have fine bands that sparkle like gold. A single rare handmade sulfide, or a large, colorful swirl in good condition, can sell for $100 to several $100s, and the truly rare examples have crossed 1,000. People pour these into a jar as decoration or hand them to kids, never knowing that one marble in the bottom is worth more than the whole rest of the jar combined. Dump your marbles out on a towel. Look for the little pontil scar. Look for a figure trapped in the glass. That's money hiding as a child's toy. But if marbles are the toy people underestimate, the next category is the one people throw out with tears in their eyes later because they didn't know. Toys. Old toys, in general, are a minefield of value, and I want to be specific so you can actually use this. First, anything from the original Star Wars era, meaning the action figures and vehicles from 1977 through the early 80s, made by Kenner. A single figure, still sealed on its original card, can sell for hundreds, and the rare ones for thousands. But even loose figures with their original tiny accessories, the little weapons and capes, carry real money because those accessories almost always got lost. Check the copyright date stamped on the figure's body and back. 1977 and the years right after are the ones you want. And it goes beyond Star Wars. Old tin wind-up toys from Japan and Germany, made in the 1930s through the 50s, with the original bright lithographed paint, sell for hundreds to thousands depending on the maker and condition. Look for maker marks stamped in the tin. Old cast iron toy banks and vehicles from the early 1900s, the heavy ones, bring strong money too. The heartbreak I've seen with toys is real. Families clean out a childhood bedroom, sweep everything into trash bags because it's just old playthings, and haul off a small fortune. I once talked a man out of tossing a box of loose Kenner figures. We found the accessories in a coffee can nearby. That box was worth more than his living room furniture. Now, here's where I have to tell you something that should make you a little angry. All of this, the jewelry, the glass, the toys, the value, has been walking out of people's homes for pocket change for decades. And the people on the other side of that table, the ones offering you $5 for a box, very often know exactly what they're looking at. They're counting on you not to check. I was on the wrong end of that early in my life, and I'll never forget the feeling of learning later what I'd let go. That feeling is the reason I'm doing this. So before we get to the very top, promise me you'll slow down before you sell anything in a box lot. Because the second most valuable thing on this list is the one people quite literally use to prop open doors and fill shelves. Books. Old books. I know, they look like the least valuable thing in any attic. Boxes of yellowed paper nobody will read again. But a first edition of the right book is one of the highest value objects a regular household can own. The words you're looking for are on the copyright page, near the front. You want it to say first edition, and you want the row of numbers there, called the number line, to include the number 1. A number line that reads down to 1 usually signals a true first printing. The prices here get staggering. A first edition, first printing of a book that later became famous, can be worth thousands. And in the most extreme cases, the ones you read about in the news, tens of thousands or more. A true first edition, first printing, of the first Harry Potter book, the British one titled with Philosopher's Stone, has sold for tens of thousands of dollars, and the finest copies have crossed 6 figures at auction houses. Most old books are worth only a few dollars. I won't lie to you, but you cannot tell which is which from the spine. You have to open the cover and read the copyright page. That's the whole secret. The difference between a $2 book and a $20,000 book is one line of tiny print that almost nobody bothers to read. Read it. So now you've checked the jewelry, the glass, the dishes, the cast iron, the cameras, the ornaments, the marbles, the toys, and the books. You've done more looking than 99% of people ever will, and you've earned the top of this list. This is the one I promised at the very beginning. The one that sold for over $4,000. And I saved it for last because it is the single most likely of all of these to be sitting in your kitchen right now, disguised as the most boring thing you own, Pyrex, old glass mixing bowls and casserole dishes. The patterned ones, with the printed designs on the outside, made from the 1950s through the 70s. You have some. Almost every American kitchen does. You've been using them for casseroles and leftovers for 40 years, never once thinking they were anything but everyday kitchenware, and most of them are worth a modest amount, maybe $10 or $20. But a small number of specific patterns are among the most feverishly hunted collectibles in the country, and the rarest of them have sold for thousands. Here is what makes this real and checkable this weekend. The patterns have names, and collectors know every one. There are common ones, and then there are the grails. The most legendary is a promotional pattern called Lucky in Love, decorated with green clover and pink hearts, made briefly around 1959 as a promotional item and never sold in stores in big numbers. Because so few exist, an authentic Lucky in Love Pyrex bowl has sold for over $4,000. That's not a typo, and it's not a fantasy. Collectors have documented these sales on eBay and in the Pyrex collector communities, where finding one is treated like discovering treasure. There are other Holy Grail patterns too, like pink stems and certain pink gooseberry pieces that bring hundreds to thousands. Let me tell you exactly what to do. Go to your cabinet, pull out every patterned Pyrex bowl and dish you own. Turn them over and note the shape and the pattern. Then look at the design on the front. Are there pink hearts and little green four-leaf clovers? If you see hearts and clovers, stop everything, because you may be holding the single most valuable everyday kitchen object most people will ever touch. Even the more findable collectible patterns, the turquoise ones, the pink ones, the butter print with the Amish farmer and wife, the gooseberry, the snowflake, sell steadily for $30 to over $100 each in good condition, and complete nesting sets bring more. The story of that Lucky in Love bowl is the whole reason I made this for you. For decades, those bowls sat in ordinary cabinets, used to whip eggs and hold potato salad while their owners had no idea. Then one collector recognized the hearts, understood how few were ever made, and the price exploded. The bowl didn't change. Only who was looking at it changed. That's the lesson under every single item on this list. The value was always there. It was always in reach. The only thing missing was someone telling you where to look. Tonight, that's me. And now you know. So think about what's really up in that attic and back in that cabinet. It was never junk. It was a small fortune you'd stopped seeing because you walked past it every day. You are exactly the kind of person who refuses to let something valuable slip out the door for pennies, or you wouldn't have stayed with me all the way to the hearts and clovers. Now, I want to hear from you, and I mean this. Which one of these do you think you actually own? Is it the green jadeite bowls, the cast iron skillet you flipped over, the Christmas ornaments you almost tossed, or is it a patterned Pyrex bowl you're walking to the cabinet to check right now? Tell me in the comments. Say which piece stopped you, and which one you're going to go look for the second this ends. I read them, and I answer. And if you're the kind of person who's tired of value hiding in your own home, walking out your door for a fraction of what it's worth, then come join us. This is what we do here, one overlooked category at a time, so nothing valuable ever leaves your hands cheap again. Because next time, I'm going to show you the specific piece of old dinnerware pattern that dealers quietly pull from donation bins first, the one they hope you never learn the name of. You'll want to know that name before you box up a single plate. So go check your cabinet tonight. And come back, because the next thing you own might be worth even more than the hearts and clovers. I'm glad you stayed to the end, because there's more. Inside, I keep going where this video stopped. My full attic item valuation playbook. And you can ask me your own question, and I answer you myself. A real person, not a robot. You won't be doing it alone. You'll belong with us in the Hidden Treasure Circle. Just point your phone's camera at the code on screen and cancel anytime. One click, no risk.